no fap. We're going to have a logical discussion about your jerk off behavior.
If you're gonna be a boss, be a boss.
Hi, I'm Paul, Apex Mindset. Make sure you watch the video till the end, like it, and subscribe. Let's talk about your fapping behavior. Your naughty touching yourself behavior, your sinful, evil fapping. There's a big trend and craze that you guys may have heard of, which is the no fap craze. It is no nut November right now. And people are, well, buying into lots of ideas regarding not fapping. All right. So we're going to dive into this once and for all on my channel. You guys will know what my opinion is on it, and you'll know some facts on it as well. And that'll hopefully help you with your decision. Because my thing on this is a lot of times guys focus on the wrong things because they're deluding themselves from focusing on their actual problems. Guys look for magical solutions and magical thinking instead of looking at doing the work that might be painful to them in order to fix some things. And that usually meaning getting out there and having real relationships with women. Instead of having real interactions with women, real relationships, guys are latching on to magical thinking ideas that they think are going to give them some sort of magical powers or have them reach some sort of pinnacle of alphaness. And nofap falls into one of those magical things that guys tend to get involved with. That said, I'll start with this. If a lot of guys have a problem or an addiction to pornography and jerking off out of more or less a necessity, we'll call it a instinctual necessity, because you're too comfortable in a society where you're not hunting and gathering and fighting. You're in a civilized 2021 society, right? So you're very comfortable compared to our evolutionary past, and you don't have solutions to your reproductive problem. You're not having sex. So men turn to easy solutions of pornography and jerking off, and that's ends up becoming an addictive habit. So if you have an addiction to something like that and it's impacting your life in a negative way, then yes, you do need to go through a period of detoxing from that addiction. And I talk about this in my Alpha Mindset course, how to do this, how to change habits, and how to handle addictions or bad behaviors, and how to recondition and get new behavior patterns that are better for you. And so if you have a problem with too much pornography and pornography and it jerking off to it, it is not good for men done into excess, especially. Just like alcohol, all right, and consuming too much alcohol is really bad for you. Too much pornography and too much of that behavior isn't good for you. And especially if you're doing it to replace actual healthy sexual relationships. It makes you bad at sex is what it boils down to. Most people, they're not using pornography and using their alone time to increase their sexual skill. Now that's a whole nother story. If someone's using that in order to increase their body control and their sexual skill, and they're doing Kegels, and they're doing a number of things to increase their ability in the bedroom when they have healthy sexual relationships, that's a whole different story, right? But most guys are not doing that. Most guys are trying to feel good, feel better, feed that urge, need, whatever, and they get involved in it, doing it to excess. So it's attractive to a lot of men who aren't solving their reproductive problem. They're jerking off all the time, and then they see some magical presentation or thinking regarding nofap, and they think, oh, that's the source of my problem. If I just stopped fapping it for 90 days, I would be like reach new pinnacles of success. Well, look, if you're addicted to something like that and it's impacting your life in a negative way, well, then absolutely stopping that behavior and detoxing from it would be very useful to you. Okay. And I go through that actually in the Alpha Mindset course. You're looking at about 6 weeks of 30 days of not doing the addictive behavior and another couple of weeks of reassimilating back to normal life in an intentional way. That's your process, is about 6 weeks. And I outline that in the course. So we'll start the video with that, because if you are doing that too much and you have an addiction, it is definitely a problem you need to solve. And that is going to involve not doing it for a while. Okay. So that is fine. All right. If that's what you use your No Nut November for, then good for you. I just noticed on the camera, I splashed some water on my shirt. So that looks pretty good right there. So now let's talk though about NoFap as an entire movement though, and the I would say overpromise that NoFap brings. And again, people get attracted to this because they are avoiding working on their real problems. They think if they focus on their jerk off behavior, that's going to get them what they want instead of handling the real problems. So one of the biggest overpromises we run into with the no fapping claims are involving testosterone. You're going to get this massive boost of testosterone and motivation and all this stuff by not doing this behavior. Now, if you had an addiction and you are spending hours a day watching pornography and draining your energy several times a day with your jerk off behavior, well, yes, obviously stopping is going to put you at a baseline, and you're going to have a lot of time and energy to put towards something productive. Okay. So that would be true, of course. Now, if you're a normal person who is not doing it to that degree or that excess, it's not going to have that level of impact that the no fappers are over promising. And I'll explain why. First things first, I'll reference the study from 2003 that no fappers like to illustrate all the time when they say that you get a 45% increase of testosterone from not fapping. And so that's the claim. So people think that they're going to nearly, get in a nearly 50% increase of testosterone that's sustainable just by stopping jacking off. Well, and this is even almost deceptive the way they write the abstract, by saying reaching 145% of the baseline. Okay. What they mean actually is not 145% increase. They mean a 45% increase. All right. Which, a 45% increase is still a lot. Okay. That's a big increase if it were sustainable. All right. But let's read what the actual study says. So there's minimal fluctuations between the second and fifth day. Then they start increasing. And by the seventh day of abstinence, there's a peak of serum testosterone levels at that 45%. So it's a peak at the seventh day. Okay, when you look at this graph, however, this tells really the real story. So sixth day to seventh day, you get that increase, okay, but then it drops right back down to baseline. And in some cases, even seeing a little bit of a decrease, and that's going to depend on the person's diet, exercise, and their behavior patterns that they're exhibiting when they're in that abstinence. Now, there was another study that was done that showed that they like to quote, by week 3, there was a small amount of increase. There was from baseline, but that was only using 10 subjects. So if those 10 subjects did other lifestyle changes, that would greatly affect their testosterone levels, because your lifestyle decisions are affecting your testosterone levels a lot more than whether or not you're fapping or not. But so most medical professionals, they'll say that it doesn't really make a difference. And this is why, because over time, it doesn't. You get the spike of testosterone at day around 7, which makes sense. We're reproductive creatures. We want to reproduce. And so when we're spending a few days not reproducing, we get a buildup, and all of a sudden our body says, hey man, go reproduce, and kicks in a bunch of testosterone. And kicks our libido in around that 7th day to say, hey, go get some sex, right? And so that makes sense, but that's very acute and very short term. And again, it was negligible. It wasn't a 47% increase over by that 3-week mark in the other study. It was only 10 participants, and it was just a bit above a standard deviation for those participants. Now, let's look at some other factors here. If you want to increase your testosterone levels on a regular basis, what you can do instead of worrying about your jerk off behavior is worrying about your quality of sleep and how much you're sleeping. And you'll hear me say that all the time as that being a major component for growth and exercise, and a major component for your mental health and your physical health. I have a playlist on the channel on optimizing your sleep and a module that covers it in the Alpha Mindset course, because it's so important for balancing out your neurochemicals, particularly those alpha chemicals, right? Your testosterone. And so we can see in this subject here, 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep. This guy is under 400 for his testosterone levels. He nearly doubles it, or can over double it actually, by getting sleep between the 7 and 8 hour mark. So you can see just getting better sleep is going to increase your testosterone levels on a daily basis and keep your testosterone levels high versus getting low sleep, for example. And the free testosterone is demonstrating the same thing. And you're nearly doubling your testosterone levels just by sleeping well. Other behaviors like exercise. Exercise can increase your testosterone level 20 to 30% and increases your baseline T levels over time. Vitamin D, that increases your testosterone levels too. How much percentage wise will be dependent on whether or not you were deficient before. And so that's another thing about T levels. You have a range of testosterone that's considered healthy. You're not going to go above high normal unless you are taking drugs or you have something wrong with you physically. Okay. You're going to be in this range of what's considered low to normal. You're not going to, your body will not naturally produce more than what's considered above normal. So the idea is you want to have high testosterone, you want to have high normal. Okay. And so if you're getting optimal sleep, you're working out, you're having vitamin D, your nutrition's dialed in, then what's going to happen is your testosterone level is going to be high normal, which means you're not going to get a 47% spike on day 7 from not fapping. You'll stay about the same because you're already high, or you might get a little increase, 5%, 10%, but you're not going to go higher than what's considered normal. So that's a negligible effect then, your fapping behavior, if you're already dialed in on your other behaviors. And this is why I say you're focusing on the wrong thing. Instead of focusing on your fapping, focus on your exercise, your nutrition and health, your sleep, most importantly for your hormone levels. And nutritional timing can help too, actually, intermittent fasting, okay, and staving off eating in the morning right away increases your testosterone level to the same degree on day 7 or more of not fapping. And it does it on a consistent basis, because if you do that every day, you'll stay high. And so this argument that focusing on your jerk off behavior is going to give you this magical increase of T is incorrect, because if you're doing all the other things right, then there will be the increase would be negligible. Okay, you can't go past what's already your body's limits of high normal. Okay, now one last point I want to make with this is sex and testosterone, and sex actually increases your testosterone level a lot more than day 7 of NoFap. So we'll highlight this right here. So they did a study going into a sex club, all right, and testing the male participants. Okay, and they did a couple of studies on this. So the study found that the effect is not limited because they were looking at erotic materials and helping people out with low testosterone. All right, that was what they were working on. So men who visited a swingers club but only watched experienced an 11% increase in their testosterone. So the guys that didn't participate but watched what was going on and the sexual stuff that was happening and getting aroused by that, they got an 11% increase. Okay, this is in 2011. However, the increase paled when compared with men who actually participated in sex. The ones that had sex experienced a 72% increase in testosterone. So, just like lifting heavy increases your testosterone levels, so does having sex. Sex is actually good for you. And they've done the studies too, no differences between solo and regular sex. They've done the studies too showing that increases there with sex, with a normal healthy sex life would increase your testosterone. All right. So a normal healthy sex life, you're actually having sex, is going to increase your testosterone more than not jerking off. When they do these studies, they take a test sample and they find 147% increase. What was their baseline before? That's information that they're not providing. We don't know how much these people worked out. We don't know what their sex lives were prior to. We don't know any of that other information that would determine whether this 47% or 45% increase rather is going to be an increase you would experience. And even as such, it's only an increase that you're really experiencing for about a day. That being said, though, what are the consequences? You only have so much effort available and with what you want to focus on. And believe it or not, focusing even just on not jerking off is taking an amount of effort. And instead, you could be putting that effort into more productive things that would actually cause you to jerk off less because you're not going to have the time and you're getting your motivation met through other things, particularly healthy situations and sexual relationships with women. Having good sexual relationships with women, okay, and working towards that, as well as working on your other goals, right? And being excellent and being on your purpose and all that stuff. That stuff is not only going to be increasing your testosterone as well, but that's going to reduce your laying around all day watching pornography type of behavior. Okay. The focus needs to be on the other stuff. Unless you're addicted to porn and addicted to jerking off, it's not where your focus needs to be. And so magical thinking and forums and movements and guys selling courses and guys doing videos talking about all these benefits, it's an overpromise and an oversell. Okay. There are some benefits, particularly if you're addicted. Sure. All right. There's actually a lot of benefits. If you're addicted, you need to do that 30-day detox if you're addicted. Sure. But your focus doesn't need to be on 90 days of let me focus on my jerk off behavior. And I relapsed the other day, like you're an alcoholic. Listen, you have a reproductive problem your body wants to solve. Your reproductive drive is your biggest drive that you have. It's bigger than survival. When you're not getting that drive met, that becomes a massive distraction to chasing excellence. I challenge you to look at all the people out there that are doing great things, some of the greatest, some great figures in our history. I challenge you to find one that was really focused on their jerk off behavior. It's just something you're not going to find because they're busy focusing on their purpose. They're not only focused on their purpose, but they're getting their reproductive problems met most of the time. Okay. They're having sex with somebody. All right. The alpha dudes out there that are accomplishing things have sex lives and they have high testosterone. So it just doesn't wash, doesn't make sense. There you go. It's such a big movement. It's November. Everybody, people are focused on it. They're focused on the wrong thing. I thought I would present to you some facts on it. So hopefully that helps you. Now, you do what you want. I really don't care about what you do with your jerk off behavior unless it's hindering your life. And that means hindering your life because you're doing it too much, or hindering your life because you're focused on some magical thinking movement instead of focusing on the real problems you need to fix in your life and your goals. When those two things are happening, now I have something to say. Other than that, what you do at home in your private time is completely up to you. I'm offering you the secret to actually being able to execute, to train your mind to be an alpha mind, or all the best game advice, tips, and tricks in the world will never work. If you want it, it's yours. It's that simple. Click the link to get started.